It looks like we are on the air. Let us launch the light bulb. Clickety clack, up and down and out. Analog. Welcome to Evolution Hour on the 9th of February, in our ongoing year of uncertainty and doom. Of course, ye old tartucanwordpress.com website. That is freebie for everything. Well, golly gosh, this has been a fun week. Saw the Olympic Games, quite inspiring and effective. Italy, and the Super Bowl, which my Seattle relatives are probably bouncing all around the room in delight as the Seahawks flattened the Patriots. Probably one of the most, hi there, Lisa, probably one of the most, I don't watch all the Super Bowls all that often, but because of the Seahawks being involved, I had to kind of pay attention. Even there's a lot of fans over here in Spokane. They had the Seahawk colors up on the clock tower down in the riverfront park, all that kind of stuff. And, people were setting off some of their 4th of July material, I guess, from the victory. But it was a remarkably anticlimactic thing. And of course, Bad Bunny had his really neat little halftime show, which of course was infuriating the Trumpistas, who were griping and grumping all about it. I don't know what the ratings were for the alternate Kid Rock halftime show. Hard to say. I do understand that J.D. Vance was rather roundly booed at the Olympics, unlike a team. Just for yes, a booing event was inspirational. Yes, I would agree with that. This was audible on the European feed. The American trimmed all of that stuff. Oh, poor little Vance. His wife was kind of pissed off at the fact that hubby gets booed. So it'll be interesting to see what's in the years to come. But anyway, we have a show to do. And we are continuing with the excitings, where we are continuing the chapter, the longest in their book, and in terms of references, where they're trying to dismiss all the potential connections to birds and dinosaurs. And they're kind of in alphabetical order. And this is also a Luskin week, so we'll be having Luskin papers in here and bringing up paraspeckles, which are paraspeckles, which are quite a funky little thing that I hadn't. Paraspeckles, although popping up in technically something every day. Anyway, this installment concerns the Alvarezsaurids. Which, according to Sarfati and Tay, quote, are sometimes regarded as a type of maniraptoran theropod by evolutionists, unquote. Sometimes? Sorry, all the time. they're maniraptoran theropods. And all the systematics deals with it. It's kind of revealing. We had mentioned therizinosaurs and other funky little things. The Alvarezsaurids have mononite in particular has this really funky little single claw thing, so it's a highly derived form. And there's a pretty good number of taxa on them, and they have quite a broad-ranging paleontological history, which has been sorted out by the systematics that Sarfati and Tay pay attention to. The most recent one is after their book came out, Mezzo et al. 20. You can take a look at the fun ones. It's showing all the categorizing, organizing these things, because they run on from the Jurassic, the very early roots. So they've got an awful lot of little things going on in there. Anyway, our creationists are not paying any attention to any of the technical literature, and there's the terminology to deal with, except for they are for the art are feathered theropod general bird, and the Jerry made exactly the same kind of argument. Exactly So you have both CM for that feather dinosaur blackbirds. Except, quite to the contrary, absolutely gobs. We will be. Dinosaurs not ancestry with major groups of dinosaurs are argument there. So feathered dinosaurs, modern birds, and Mesozoic birds are not three created kinds of animals, but rather three groupings with multiple created kinds per group. Autonomy of bird versus dinosaur is unhelpful in rightly viewed as a specialized type of without implying birds evolved from dinosaurs. Twisty turny head spinner of a paragraph also means that Sarfatti and Tay and Bergman aren't really reading what the hell was being said by McLean in that paper. I have sort of a personal with McCain, bless his little heart. Oh, sorry. The counter's still going smoothly for any auditory problems that are going along. I've had interactions with McLean by proxy. He did a series, and I discussed it way back, a couple of years back, of where McLean lit into my book, proclaiming that he had demolished the things. And when he got around to the probantic name, those little smoking gun fossils, he just skipped right over those. So McLean has a curious little ability. That 2018 on birds using this little grid approach where they're taking cladistic information, none of which they've come up on intersecting blobs that they're using to indicate whether or not something supposedly is in. I mean, it's a fun, but doesn't really help all that much. At any rate, the actual technical citations that Sarfatti and Tay went into after launching off McLean was all about side issues. They put up a link to Schweitzer et al. 1999, which was about identifying feather elements in one of the Alvarezsaurids. And I'm afraid I've only got the abstract that I'll be able to stick up on that one. And then the criticism of that by Saeda et al. 2018, also an extended abstract that I'll be able to put the link up to. Although the fact that among the authors of both papers is Mark Norell, who is clearly in the dinosaur bird camp, this was an issue about a little minuscule sidebar as to whether or not you'd be able to identify alpha keratins in fossil material, which would be a dead giveaway that they are in the bird element, because the skins lack alpha keratins, and if there aren't any in this deposit, then that would be an indication that they're bird-like in their structure. Assuming, of course, that all fit exactly the same way. No one was really arguing that the Alvarezsaurids are the direct ancestors of birds. They would be cousins to them. Anyway, then they launched off, Sarfatti and Tay went off on kind of a little sidebar on Pearl at 2018 on Mononychus. A little bit about the fact that it had a nomenclature issue because there had already been a taxon named that, and so they changed the spelling from a CH to a K to distinguish it. Anyway, Sarfatti and Tay cited this paper for, quote, paper explicitly that, oops, we're losing connection. It's, I've got a connection These are the extensions of anyway. Mentioning that this okay, yikes. That apart like that it was, quote, in many ways, other ways, it is transitional between primitive maniraptorans and modern birds. So all of this systematically is simply the thing we all. We've got birds originating as one of the many that are not. Has gone away in the years. See how the ground data field in this area. So we move on to the show. There's three listed by Torres M because all are just initial properties. Turns out two of the same M Torres material. Them are by Menon Torres, Frank, on circadian rhythm. There's a team paper, 2017, or speckles, which is a thing I really hadn't heard about. These are kind of little globules that operate inside of cells and group things together. Popping up in a lot of the titles on the Luskin. Some of them that I've already and discussed the whole thing. So that's a little sidebar. Kind of keeping an eye out for paraspeckles in any. Okay, okay. I'm getting. It's very. I apologize for any glitch on that. That's the way it goes. Keeps on. I keep on getting a connection losing thing. Anyway, that junk DNA is not the driving factor. On Torres papers is quite by the conclusion of that 2017 one, because they say although it has been retained in the nucleus genes, which are sequences of R30 UTR endogenous mRNA, not associated with NEAT1, which is the gene that they were looking at, actually do not contain such sequences or equivalent IR-SINE sequences in our model of pituitary cells. This suggests either the paraspeckles can recognize IR sequences localized anywhere along the mRNA. Double-stranded RNA sequences are not the only one recognized by paraspeckles. So, fascinating topic, and cell, but it's 8 miles removed from the reason why the list was made in the first place, which was that supposedly junk DNA is largely functional, which AC Luskin was aiming for. And this is really Torres paper, which contributed to much more recent who said about occurs in a different section in relation to repetitive elements on the list. Anyway, they are taking an initial step toward the understanding of the molecular basis driving silent. Perfectly fine topic issue. But when you looked at the content, it's the case that junk DNA did not arise at all in that 2023 paper. It's just not a topic. So in what respects could it possibly be regarded as relevant to the DNA point when it's not about junk DNA and not making assertions about the incidence of junk DNA to which they are functional in the genome? So, and the gang. Hi, Hive. Yes, this has been bounced off a couple times in there, but we proceed as best we can proceed. Now, the joy of finally finishing that vast cosmology sent text on to Jackson to take a look at. And I'm now diving into his Noah's has an awful lot going into the weeds about how creationists are missing the issue of bird origin, feather origins, dinosaur warm bloodedness, all of these fun issues. I was just working on info box that'll be in there, reminding people that, holy smokes, that is a topic which is not hot button. The average creationist, biogeography is time and space, and it was for Darwin, and it's really a joy area for evolutionists, because to work out whole organisms are living where they are and how do they get there and what has happened to them along the way. If you are trying to ramrod everything into the big slosh, golly gosh, that ain't going to work, because the flood never happened. So you're never going to be able to make it work. So we're setting up a series of benchmark points about all the organisms and things that have relationships that allow you to see the ebb and flow of everything from ostracods and dinosaurs and ichthyosaurs and plants. So many things where you'll have sense about why they've gotten to be where they are, and a turnover. Ostracods are a delicious example because they've 400 million years on them, and they've had their ups and downs, and most of the ostracod species are extinct. So there's been a bunch of turnover over time. How could a creationist ever come up with a paleo world that would make sense out of it? Things are indicating saline environments, other places there are freshwater, various lineages have been specialized in these. It's just a huge topic. And anything with that many species, like all the insects as well and plants, is just too intimidating, I think, for the average creationist to be able to tackle, even one to have a gumption under it. They're never going to be able to sort their way through in NOPA program boxes in baraminology to make sense of all of that. And they have no tremendous incentive to theologically, because that stuff is kind of, they just slough it aside, that doesn't have to be taken on the ark. So they don't really worry about what food crops are being worried about, or what parasites are being taken along, how many of the insects there are. I guess little beetles and all the rest have just got a dog paddle during the flood. And of course, all the plant distribution, some all is, ironically enough, because that's the plant that gets first olive branch taken to the ark. Those things can't stand water inundations. So what the hell is going on here? It's all the way around. And the funky little part occurs because of this bit about the Alvarezsaurids as whether or not they're birds or dinosaurs or not. Because the creationists in Sarfati and Tay are treating them as an example of a bird. But the Ark Encounter isn't doing it that way. They're just basically riffing off of standard systematics, and they classify them in the extinct direction. So it's pretty obvious that not everybody at ICR, CMI, and AIG compares notes or looks at their prior output. We are going to be documenting a variety of issues where Ken Ham has forgotten what Ken Ham thought, or his AIG, he's not paying attention to the whole bit. The mutation that has taken place as Ken Ham has gone from accepting they exist, but basically the Alan fiducia approach to that. And it's mind-boggling instance of really sparse source citations on their part, and a lot of wishful thinking, and a lot of taxa avoiding. But we'll be sorting it all out. So the new book will be clear out of what the actual facts are, and exactly are in all leading to a discussion of what little has passed for claims about what was going on in the Noah's Lost World category of what happened. What was the pre-flood world like? How was it distributed? No commonality there. Odd out in the accepting Rodinia as the pre-flood, as most other creations tend to go for Pangea. So it all depends on how much they want to riff. Earlier, Columbia and all of that, Nunya, I don't think that at all. But things like mammoths, Andrew Snelling's little babies, plus all of the sage lore and human longevity, the really long, more of that chapter. That's going to be a one, because the out of finally see our little picture. Here we go. Thanks everybody. Stick it out. Every month that does up that connection. And then we'll jump in and put our little commercial walls. Up here. Where did you? There. Sometimes the little side on here, sub pulls up a thing that I didn't want pulled up, and thing. Okay. Come on. Okay. It's just, it ain't my computer. I think it's maybe a billion people. Reese is a Patriots fan. There's always the possibility. Screen share. Extremely lumpy. In the videos, I get those independent of how pathetic my version is on the live. Such as life. Things that happen in the world. So. Boop. Next week, we'll have some stuff on Mr. Hidden, obscure person app apologize totally for this. Nothing I can do about it. Stream. They must be Patriots fans, as I was thinking. So I'll just end the stream. We are still await kids to get the text links for you to follow up on the various papers. I've got most of the material in readable, so people can catch that independent. Clunky the live stream video is, but next week we will see what's going on. So watch out for the happening